In the story creation ecosystem, worlds are created by two separate, yet equally important groups. The worldbuilders, who envision the world and its intricacies, and the storytellers, who bring their world to life. This is their podcast. Writing The Final Frontier. These are the short stories of the Bibliorbis podcast. Its several-hour mission: to create strange new worlds, to build new characters and new civilizations, to boldly go where no world builder has gone before. I have just started recording. We are recording now.
Okay.
No, you are recording.
I'm recording, yeah. We're not recording.
We're all recording together.
I mean, I could
Aren't we
record as
all
well.
recording in a way?
All directed to memory. Short memory.
Yeah, but human memory is so bad.
It is so bad.
Oh,
There are
I
even
forgot what you
people.
just said.
There are even people who report that they actually remember things in third person. That's how bad human memory is.
That sounds
I
cursed.
mean, to be fair, I know how that can happen legitimately. It just doesn't mean much usually.
Has anyone
When
of
you
you
dream,
guys,
Do you dream in first person or in third person?
Fourth person.
Fourth. Okay, good to know, I guess.
second person?
I mean, it just depends on how many characters you have in that dream.
I guess.
All right, Carbon, take us away.
I will do that. Okay, so our world today is Bartian Wars or Vita Nova. Which one do you prefer?
Bartian Wars works.
Bartian Wars. Okay, and our author is Cordain, the
That's me.
the deep voice American.
Oh, wow. Thanks for the compliment. Anyway.
And it is a military and historical-esque world. It's set 350 to 450 years after the first penal colonists were brought to that planet. So it's a planet, a penal colony planet. And their tech is in the late 19th century, so Victorian era Industrial Revolution tech. It's
Yeah, we've got, it's the dawn of bolt action, lever action, pump action sort of weaponry, if that helps clue you in.
That sounds
Just to
terrifying.
clarify, that's only the tech on the penal colony, though, right?
That's the tech of the penal colony. Obviously, Earth is much more advanced, but they are not important, like hardly at all in this story.
I think Carbon feels right at home with this setting.
I do. I very much do. So, it's a world that's mostly populated by the descendants of penal colonists from Earth. So kind of how people think of Australia. Yeah. Except it's not. It's not
It's
Australia.
the meme, but better.
Yeah. The culture of the planet is maturing as the regular shipments of penal colonists begin to have very little impact on the population growth. So natural population growth is more significant than immigration. However, the world is rife with war, which you'd kind of expect when everyone there is a criminal, and is on the verge of its first world war. The world is intended to be a remix or a reboot of Earth's history without the burden of doing an actual alternate history. The story also explores the tropes and memes, apparently, of the world wars and their associated wars and conflicts, and what would happen if we mixed and matched them and exaggerated them. The world is apparently a fairly soft sandbox to work with, as not all of the locations, nations, geography, and politics are set, so there's a lot of flexibility to have fun and spitball ideas. I'm using Cordain's words for almost all of this. A few examples. Cordain has already given us 4 ideas for short stories. Japanese-like banzai charges. I don't know what they are, but they sound terrifying. There will be a nation that does that too, but more so. Russia is a nation of massive wilderness and the weather eats armies. We are aware of that, and there will be a nation with a similar trope. And South Africa developed nukes despite its low population and not quite developed world-level tech. You're talking about South Africa in the real world?
South Africa and the real world developing nukes despite their development at the time. So we'll
Yeah.
have another nation here, but we'll exaggerate it again. More rural, more low tech, but they're still going to find a way to develop nuclear weapons.
Oh, carbon dioxide is shouting yes, yes, yes. Are you saying that you'd like to be a participant, carbon dioxide? I'm carbon. You're me with 2 extra oxygens.
Also, it took me a while to realize that you're not actually quoting it word for word with me. Like, I don't know what it means, but it sounds cool.
I do not
thought you were
actually
getting
know
more
any
forward.
weaponry from the Victorian era, so this will be interesting.
Yeah, so this is just a sandbox to work in, and because I was trying to come up with years ago for an actual alternate history World War. The idea was to do World War One and make it so the point of divergent was so small that most people wouldn't even notice it. Like almost all the events would be identical, only a few changes, but it would be like the butterfly effect. And then you do a World War Two series where the differences are larger and you start to notice them, and then that leads into a surprise World War Three. But then I realized that I don't actually like having to figure out what Eisenhower and Goering and Stalin are actually like, and trying to make it believable. The changes I make, I figured I'd just do this instead.
So let's not delve into the psychology of historical figures. Let's make new historical figures and make their psychology.
That's right. Because I don't want to get jumped on by all the people that know more history than me. So we're going to do it this way instead. And plus, this allows me to have fun with the memes more anyway. So hopefully we can come up with a bunch of tropes and mix and match them to create some interesting nations, cultures, situations, and contexts that the characters can be involved with. Given the nature of this project, most of the ideas for short stories and nations will be compatible and will be able to be used simultaneously. For example, I've already been writing, quick little profiles for short stories for characters, and I have like 8 that can all function simultaneously in the same war, just different people in different nations in different situations. I have a cavalryman who is dealing with the fact that cavalry is not used anymore. You have the leader of one nation, or a lieutenant in another, or a slave in another, that sort of thing. Where do you think we should go from here, Carbon?
Well, you've given us a nice character already, and so let's try to brainstorm a few more characters. Characters and their settings. So you've got cavalryman dealing with the decline of cavalry. You've already given us that. So let's try to brainstorm other characters who might exist in this setting. So either to do with the technology or to do with the situation that they're in a penal colony.
I mean, the first thing... I'm sorry.
Yeah, can I quickly derail this for like maybe a minute or two? Because...
Wow.
Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. But the thing is, it says it's a penal colony, and the question to me is, why would whichever power has the ability to move those people there just like ignore what's going on there?
That's a very good question. I'll explain why. When they selected the planet to send people to, they intentionally selected a planet where they didn't think that people would develop to a point where they would become a danger. So they purposely selected the planet they felt would be low in metals, or have a very little energy coming from its star, or very little food, whatever. Because they didn't want them to develop very far, however they were mistaken. And so they're kind of dealing with this issue by the same token, given that the Earth governments are democracies, and it's not a concern for each leader during their term, they just continue to kick it down the road, and now it's been 350 years of this can being kicked down the road, and they still haven't done anything about it. And so far, they're not a threat. I mean, they have bolt actions, and Earth is how many light years away? So, and the penal colony was a compromise between those people who wanted to put people in life in jail and the people who wanted to kill them. And so, if you get a life sentence, or if you get a sentence to be put to death, instead you get sent here.
Okay, but wouldn't they at least like administer a certain zone where they just land the new
They land a ship in a
Penal
different
colony?
location every time, and that is also a thing. So, nations on Vita Nova, which is the name of the planet, they they like to recruit new Earthlings into the military because Vita Nova is slightly smaller and more oxygenated, and so Earthlings tend to be stronger and I don't know, more have more stamina for a short period, and so oftentimes they'll create slave armies out of the newcomers that aren't women and use them up like that. It's different every time, so it's kind of a race as soon as it's a new landing ship is located to see who can capture it, or at least cordon off the area and prevent anyone else from acquiring a new shipment of prisoners. Now,
So,
given it's, go ahead, Carbon.
did any of the Earth governments actually send an administrative force at any point to the planet?
Zero. That's part of the. Well, okay. So before they could send anyone to the planet had no life on it at all, but it was suitable for life. And so there was a group of colonists that were, these are educated people who are various scientists and engineers who were sent to the planet to seed the planet, with the agreement that there's this, I don't know, New Guinea-sized island, very isolated in the ocean, that when they were done seeding the planet, they would move to and live there in isolation and be able to live with their advanced technology and Earth history while the prisoners are brought to every other landmass. But since they'll never be able to develop, that wasn't deemed to be an issue. So they are called the seed colonists. They stick to themselves. They are administrative, but they do not get involved in any sort of conflict outside their island. And given their advanced technology, no one worries about them. No one touches them. No one goes near them. No one sails in their waters. They're kind of Atlantis, but they haven't sunk.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, like you did mention how everybody in the original world are democracies, so we don't worry about it. But also
Well,
at the same time, I am concerned.
likely.
I am concerned about how we have so many democracies in the original world, and none of them has thought to actually send their own undocumented shipment to this world and enslave the people in there.
Well,
Considering
I
the
didn't say they
intent
did. I didn't say they didn't do that. So here's one caveat
Okay.
that you bring up, and that is that after about this world's about 350 years old. So most of the people that live here are born and bred, have nothing to do with penal anything. They're not criminals. They just want to live a good life. And after about and when they land, they literally have the clothes on their back. No history, no writing, no tools. All they have is what's in their brain and their 2 hands. And so anything that is from Earth is corrupted because it's all an oral history. But after about 200 years, governments allowed certain groups of willing colonists to go. Now, they weren't allowed to bring any tools either, but they were allowed to bring books. So this is the only way that Earth religions or certain knowledges were allowed to come, but no technology. So they're not allowed to bring anything regarding technology. They can bring cultural documents, they can bring art documents, they can bring religious documents, but no technology because once again, the Earth governments don't want them to become a threat.
So it's regulated enough to the point where they can, like, well, nobody will send any secret shipment to enslave the people there, but also at the same time, yeah.
They- Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that it's possible that someone could send a secret shipment, and that may be a short story that we come up with. I'm
Okay.
open-minded.
So the second question is about this little colony of actually advanced people.
Yes.
First of all, are they still getting shipments from Earth, or are they like,
No, they are a fire and forget sort of thing. So when they arrived, they knew ahead of time, we're gonna go there, we're gonna seed this planet. These are the sorts of people that, going back to like North America 1700s, these are the people that wanted to live on the frontier. They need to cut their teeth on someone, so Earth says, okay, be my guest, go seed the planet, but we knowing ahead of time that you're not going to get any support from anyone on Earth, and you're going to be on your own, and you're going to be quartered in this little area. And they said yes.
I do wonder though, like, how long will it be possible for them to stay out of conflict? Because first of all, they
Perfect.
might get
Perfect.
like an idiot leader at some point who thinks that they can conquer the world, or an idiot leader that lets some locals in, and suddenly these locals have all the technology, and like it sounds like a recipe for disaster. Now, I'm not saying that will mean no government will allow that, because let's be honest, governments and planning don't go together. So I definitely see why that would happen. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just wondering, how far do you plan to take it?
Well, okay, so let me give it a long stretch. So, excuse me. I plan on doing 3 main world wars, but instead of just doing carbon copies of the wars, what I wanted to do was make it so that their World War One would end with our World War One's starting technology, and then their World War Two would have our interwars technology, and then their World War Three would have like late World War Two Korean War level tech, and that would be kind of 3 huge conflicts that would kind of settle the score. However, there would be a surprise World War IV where, because by the time the Third War comes across, many of the nations have developed and used nuclear weapons. The seed colony now feels threatened, right? Because they don't have any. If the rest of the world wanted to, they could be destroyed, and so they do attempt a preemptive strike from this tiny New Guinea-sized colony. And not colony, I mean, it's a full-fledged nation with, I'm sure, millions and millions of people with advanced technology. So you're getting ahead of me, and you're on the same track as I am.
Have you plotted out how many like inhabitants this planet will have? Like what?
I actually do have an Excel sheet. I actually do have an Excel sheet that actually shows me. I've been playing with the numbers to come to. I've been trying to get to 1 billion people, and I'm pretty sure that's how. This is all excluding the seed colony. About 1 billion people, because was Earth's population was a little over that at the turn of the century in 1900.
Did you really? Oh yeah, I guess in China and India were a lot of people already.
A lot of people. Yep. Quarter of the world's population was in Africa and unrecorded.
Okay.
I will say that if you're trying to figure out how many people you should have in any place, especially for the lower tech ones, I'll send it again, because there's a very decent document that goes over how population spread would usually happen in such a place.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically just roll a bunch of dice, decide on a bunch of arbitrary numbers, and it shows you fairly well how to split people. So,
sure. I've been using a time value of money calculator from finance to break it up into different population growth as technology increases, and I've gotten to reasonably within, what is this, 300 years, 375 years to be 600 million people with just under 2% population, organic population growth. So the numbers are mostly there. There's going to be a little bit of hand waving, especially since I'm the writer, and I can tell you how many exactly people are there, because the people on the planet don't know how many people are there.
Hand waving is the best element ever.
Hand waving was beautiful.
Yes, element 119, hand wavium.
How does it work?
Super heavy metal.
It helps when you play super heavy metal while you do it too.
Okay, I think I derailed everything enough.
So let me read you a little something to give you an introduction as to some of the reasoning of the Earthlings as to what their level of intervention is. Vita Nova was designated a penal colony because it was low on the priority list for colonization and is prone to solar events. It wasn't expected to have hardly any resources of carbon fuels, so they weren't likely to advance and become a spacefaring threat. So we sent volunteers who wanted to see the planet from Earth with Earth life and colonize, and they went knowing they would never come back. They were content to live a simple life. Seeding took root, stabilized, and they eventually isolated most of themselves on the distant landmass of Gargantua. It's the farthest they could get from the largest continents, and agreed we'd never send a penal transport there. But our scientists were wrong. The planet is abundant in metal ore and carbon fuels of every sort, But what difference does it make? We kept our part of the bargain, and they did too. Both sides knew that eventual contact between seed colonists and the others would occur, but given their distance, I'd hardly say there are any seriously ill effects. The gargantua colony is safe. Why do we care if the rest of them tear each other apart? Does it make any difference to us, or Gargantua, what the penals choose to kill each other with, bows or rifles? Gargantua is more than capable of remaining isolated and content. The penals are no threat. We've done our duty in sending criminals there and giving them a second chance. It's not any of our business if they want to screw it up. I disagree with this committee's idea to send a kill satellite. The expense and effort isn't worth it. I'm telling you, they're not worth another thought. The last ship left 2 months ago, and 12,000 more convicts won't make any difference to the current penals, Gargantua, or ourselves. Let us forget about Vita Nova and move on to something more material and actionable. We have several candidates to use to be a new penal colony, and that ought to be our new focus, not some forgotten backwater. This is the quote from a speech to the International Penal Authority Board about Vita Nova from the United States President Greg Garrett. That's just an introduction to explain some of the reasoning and politicking as to why Vita Nova hasn't been touched by any Earth governments.
So it hasn't been touched basically because they don't care.
They just don't care. Why do they care? The people that any commitments would have been made to were made by administrations 300 years ago. They don't care.
Oh, okay. So that's like.
Oh,
a
and
long
Earth is a
time
little
after.
yeah. Earth is a little bit of a dystopia, but that's really the form of dystopia isn't important because I don't know what form of dystopia it is. It just is. We're gonna leave it there.
I'm just going to pretend it's a Mary Sue dystopia.
No, I don't want to do a copy of Star Wars 7.
Or 8. Or 9.
Or 8. Or 9. Okay, so let's do some character spitballing. I'm gonna record some here. Carbon, do you have your writing implement that you can project for us?
I do. I'm already projecting it.
Oh, what?
So basically, the entire attitude towards this thing is elephants do not concern themselves with ants, but eventually it will become rats, and then they'll be scared shitless.
But that'll happen years from now, and that's not gonna keep.
So that's the next administration's fault.
I really
Yeah,
do
it's-
love
it's
how
not
Earth
my-
just
not
doesn't
my
give
problem.
a shit.
Yeah,
Very
it's
charming.
like I'm not gonna get any votes by going into Rwanda. What's that gonna do for me politically? Nothing. So we're not going to.
I mean, with a 300 years like disconnect from when they started shipping people off to, well, at the point where you read it, yeah, I guess that makes sense that they're not gonna care too much about it anymore.
The United
I mean,
States
the only
still tends.
question I have-
10 generations afterwards?
The only question I have is how the hell did these governments survive for 300 years? But then again, we've reached so far.
Yeah, I didn't say this was the first
We've
United
reached
States.
over.
Well, you look at most democratic governments, you see that they don't typically do anything that will have an effect in the long term. They only
We
like
don't
to do
typically
things.
anything at all, but that's a different question.
Well, in
They-
America, we only do things on 2-year bases, so.
Yeah, if it
Yeah.
has an immediate effect, if there's an immediate profit from it, then a democratic government will do it. If it's 10 years down the track, they're just going to go, well, I'm not going to be here then.
Yeah, but the dictatorship is gonna do it, and they're gonna do it
Social
slowly.
Security.
I'm pretty sure that in
Yes.
the beginning, maybe when a government just starts, they look like at the long run, but now that's definitely
Right.
not the case.
Even if you have someone that says, even if you say you had a president of the United States who thought, I'm gonna make a plan that takes 20 years to do. The problem is he's gonna rely on at least 2 other administrations to carry it out.
Yeah.
So even if they had the goodwill to do something like that, they are gambling on at least 2 administrations downstream. Anyway, that's not the focus of this. But you guys have really good questions. This is helpful. I've been writing this crap down.
One question that I would have is what's gonna be the igniting spark for the First World War?
Yes. So in our World War, we had some crazy Serbian kill someone, right? But that was only the spark that lit the fuses.
There was also an arms race, so that
An
helped.
arms race, right? You have nationalism. You have an arms race. You have the French wanted to get back at the Germans. You have secret alliances, all that stuff. But I have a real soft spot for communism. I mean, wait, that came out wrong. I have a soft spot for making things go wrong with communism. So what I want to do is there's a nation that in this world. Let me see if I can find its name real quick here. It is called Dvarody, and it's
How's that spelt?
Dvarody.
It isn't.
Dvarody.
Can I ask why you're not typing and why you're writing those? It's hurting me. It's hurting my soul.
Hurting your soul.
Yes. Why aren't you typing? For the love of God.
Because my desk isn't large enough to have 2 screens and a keyboard at the same time.
And he's gonna draw me pictures later.
Yeah.
I guess.
No, the thing with this nation is that it's racked with political strife, economic strife, and eventually the communists take over, and their neighbor to the immediate north is their ally, and in an attempt to restore the proper government, they invade. However, there are other governments that are also allied with the new government, and this is how the war starts. So literally trying to protect their ally from communism, we're going to invade you to clean out the communists, and then so your proper government can come back. And that's how the First World War.
So it's literally the same idea of like too many alliances, but instead of some king or duke or something getting killed off, now we have a government failing. I like it.
Entire government failing.
It's not because of the government failed.
Yes, and it was a monarchy, and there's this, they have not a civil war because it never grows to that point. It's a coup, and he's ousted. He lives, but the communists are now in charge.
Wait.
And
Communists
yes, sir.
allied with a monarchy.
No. The communists initiate a coup and remove the monarchy, but the monarch is able to escape, and he lives. So he's got to flee to safety to his ally, which is the Alabasta Alliance, and they will go in and invade to clean out the communists and restore their ally to the throne.
So basically the French Revolution.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of a French Revolution, but it's now communist.
Sort of.
Arguably the French was communist.
Right, and you guys are picking up on one of the things I'm trying to do here is that I don't want any direct analogs. So I don't want, oh, that's Germany, oh, that's France, or that's America. I'm trying to make sure that each nation has at least a combination of 2 tropes, memes, or themes from real world nations at the time, or in history, sometime between 1870 and 1950, and mix them together.
So we want more of a Discworld and less of an Elder Scrolls.
Not sure what the analogy meant, but sure.
I hadn't read Discworld, so you'll have to forgive me. But yes, this starts their First World War, and when we think of World War, we think of, I mean, was it really a World War? I mean, not every nation was involved, but it was a good portion of the world. Well, I'm gonna, like I said in the story, I'm gonna take whatever the themes and tropes are.
World War One only involved Europe, more or less, but yeah, World War.
So this will, instead of including a large portion of the world, it will literally include the majority of the world's nations. So imagine World War One, but China, and India, and Africa, and South America, and Mexico, and Canada, and Greenland.
So imagine World War One, but World War Two.
Yes.
One way to put it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I already gave the example of where is he? I have too many characters. This happens to me all the time. So here's an example of one character I have, a 2-tailed Mughal cavalry platoon sergeant who's intensely loyal to the king. He's a seasoned cavalryman that experiences many changes in cavalry warfare. As such, he's skilled with a lance, sword, pistol, and rifle. He's been a soldier his whole life and is so used to the uniform he rarely wears anything else. He's a tall man with a gentleman's mustache, just like the king's mustache. He's proper yet can be loose and casual, but he has to eventually learn to deal with the changes to the use of cavalry throughout this war and later wars should he survive. So that's one character. Just an example, so you know where I'm going with this. I have another character. This is a man from a place called the Surus Empire. He's a Suru man who was once an alcoholic but has been dry for 3 years now. He's conscripted into the local militia to defend against an invasion. He quickly learns from the locals how to fight, but the other people around him drink a lot, and they're a bad influence on him, and eventually he falls off the wagon.
Colin would like to know if we have a map of the world.
I can get a partial map of the world for you. It's rough, but it'll give you some ideas.
Yeah, because I think for this case it might be helpful to have like a map and.
Sure, I'm gonna hop off the mic for just 3 seconds.
1, 2, 3.
Where's the map?
Very mature.
Did you expect anything more?
I honestly know.
I think we all expected a lot less, though, so...
Yeah.
See, improvement.
I'm
Well,
thinking maybe...
better than the shit post from yesterday. That was glorious.
Oh my god, let's not talk about my mishap with geography yesterday.
Post after that one.
Ah, yes.
I got yeah, this is a good filler, I think. So
Go right ahead.
I was given an ad on YouTube for a self-help cultist, guru, and I was bored, so I actually watched it for a laugh. I laughed a lot more than I should have. It was amazing, and I then had a few more people on Terranova go through that experience. It was nice.
Jira, I'm thinking you would be a cultist now.
Yesterday, I discovered that Pennsylvania is in fact not a country in Europe, but a state in America.
Yeah, Transylvania is a city or in Romania. Yeah.
See, it's a legitimate thing to get confused with about
Transylvania versus Pennsylvania.
Too.
It somehow just fits in my brain like two very very compatible puzzle pieces.
They would be able to easily trick you because they're so nice.
The Amish or the vampires?
The Amish vampires.
Both.
Okay.
Wait, how did we reach Amish vampires from this?
My stupidity mostly.
Pennsylvania.
I'm glad to see that Carbon. I'm glad to see that Carbon recognized the rest of us aren't from Australia and turned the map around.
Yeah. I had it upside down first, then I realized, oh wait, you're not Australian. You don't look at maps upside down.
It's instinctive. It's instinctive for you.
Nice.
Okay, so this map is short on the geographical details, but is the only one I have that's labeled with any nations.
I do have an interesting question while we're at it, actually. Because I have noticed, while looking at this map, our world map tends to get, areas tend to get, to shrink, sort of, when they go southwards. All the land masses tend to shrink southward. Now I'm curious if there's actually any explanation for it, or if it's just coincidence.
It's just
They
coincidence.
shrink because they're being sucked towards the hole in the earth.
Oh my gosh.
What?
We live on a hollow Earth, and there's a hole in the north and south pole, but the NASA won't let you see it. And that's why things are getting smaller, because they have a larger gravitational pull because of the star in the center of the planet, and that's where the Nazis and the 10 tribes of Israel live, in perpetual war.
So
10 tribes? I'm pretty sure we have 12 last I checked.
Oh, the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Oh, I apologize.
So, Cordain, this country down here, the one that I just highlighted the name in red, is that the one that gets invaded to protect it from communism?
No. See this one that says Sikite? That one will be replaced with Duvarity.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. I will highlight
the country that says. You can make a note by the country north of it called Zynet. You can also write underneath it Alabast for me, because currently in this is a rough draft. Currently, Zynet is not Zynet. Currently, they're simply the Alabast Alliance.
I'll write a B like a non-cursive person, so that.
Thank you, sir.
It's weird for me. My B's are usually like that, but. you clearly write your B's the printing way rather than the writing way. So
I do.
My
That's
B's
a
are
product
usually
of-
yellow and black.
Okay,
God.
Krog, stop it.
Why would you do it that way?
So you also see you have also. Oh, by the way, just so you know, the equator is at the very top of the page.
okay, yep.
So the equator is at the top. Got it.
The equator's at the top. So this is the map will in total have 16 of these. So this is just south of the equator, 1/4 chop. You get what I'm saying? You cut it 4 ways.
Mhm.
It's a quarter of a hemisphere.
Yeah, but it gets a lot trickier as soon as you consider projection methods.
Which is why I'm focusing only on the ones directly north of the equator and south of the equator. We're gonna leave Greenland and Antarctica alone.
Okay,
I mean,
so
the viruses
I'm
never
sure
even
they'd
get there,
thank
so
you.
why bother?
so it's down here about like 30 degrees ish.
I'm well, Dusay SC has a temperate climate.
Okay, so that
Dusay SC is
so
crap.
I'm
How many of you guys
gonna
are from America? Dusay SC is Michigan. So you already get snow in the wintertime in Kurg and Dusay SC.
okay.
I mean, I would argue that the weather and climate on the planet can be kind of different compared to Earth because a lot of our climate comes from
The
Well,
tilt
the
of the
island-
axis, yeah.
sea currents and yeah.
Right. Sea currents. I mean, without the the North Atlantic current, Europe would be a giant frozen ice ball or something like that.
Yeah. So
So basically Europe would be England, but the entirety of Europe.
I mean, Europe
no.
would be Russia, but the entirety of Europe.
Yeah.
yeah, that sounds more.
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
it.
so you need to say thank you to Africa for that North Atlantic current. We say
Hmm.
Africa. We say thank you.
I mean, what?
We thank Africa every year for the hurricanes.
Greetings from Africa.
Changes the meaning of the song, bless the rains
Shut up.
down in Africa.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
They bless the hurricanes.
Can you imagine someone playing a banjo in Louisiana saying "Curse the
Oh, no.
rain down in Africa"?
Can I imagine it? Yes.
I'm
that it actually-
99% sure someone has done that.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's
you
probably
do have
somewhere
one
out on
guy-
the internet.
You do have one guy who every time goes near hurricanes and then just spins in his head to metal songs or something, holding an American flag and a shotgun, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's
So, yeah.
well. That's sort of like the American Oracle.
God.
If you need advice, go see the shotgun flag man.
I'm gonna cut off this line of conversation now, just because it's getting really sidetracked.
That's true. That's true. Okay. So another thing you need to know is that that map is a rough draft, and all those islands you see to the west, they are much farther away.
Okay.
I have a quick
They-
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is getting recruited to the army mandatory, or do people volunteer, or how does that work? And does that depend on the country?
It depends on the country. So, for example, you see a country kind of top center called Casablanca. It's now called Casablanca, but anyway, they really enjoy finding newcomers to the planet and conscripting them to the army as slave soldiers. But they do everything they can to kill them all before they're done with their military service.
Oh, fun stuff.
And the reason is and they don't tell them this, of course, but the reason they do this is because one of the cultural things on this planet that's almost worldwide, and that is extreme dislike for anything Earth culture. So, we will get our use out of you, but we want to kill you before you enter the general population because we don't want any of your Earth talk, Earth language, Earth music. We don't want your Earth crap here.
I see.
So, but we have no choice. You're gonna be here. We have no choice, so we're just gonna use you up.
So if we're gonna hunt you down, specifically so you don't enter any country, use you for their military to hunt down more of them, and eventually, when you're done with your service, you get a surprise.
A good chance, depending on the country that captures you. For example, let's see. It says here, from what I gather from the oral histories, Vidanova has had its own divisions of wars, much like Earth, back through the centuries. The governments here love to recruit new prisoners into their militaries due to their strength. What was that?
Cross.
Yeah, can you repeat that,
Please
please?
repeat that.
You're cooking a pizza?
Can you repeat what you just said? Because
I think
I
it sounded a bit.
Yeah,
sure.
I was going through some construction and my phone wouldn't let me mute it.
Yes.
Construction.
Okay, so
I see.
That's how it
Vidanova
Yeah,
has its own
it's the
division.
little rumble bars to wake people up when they fall asleep in their cars, you know.
Sounded more like a nuclear reactor meltdown. Are you sure you are not just...
I mean, look.
Oh, he did mute it. Congratulations. Anyway, Vidanova has its own divisions of wars, much like Earth through the centuries, and governments here love to recruit new prisoners into their militaries due to the strength and stamina because of the abundance of oxygen and less gravity. But you gotta build them up quickly because most Earthlings are soft with strong blood. But batches come only a few times a year, and you have to be ready because they touch down in random places every time. So you have to be quick if they touch down in neutral territory, which we were. We snagged a 12,000 prisoner ship last year, conscripted them all. You should have seen the look on the faces of the Sholinese when they showed up and we nabbed them all already. Grand Marshal told me to use them up because Earth culture is a disease. We've still got 9,000 after they took for Enotok. Freedom and citizenship wait for them at the end of service, if they live long enough.
Do any of them live
you could
long
also
enough?
have a short story based on one of those people that end up in Casablanca, and the stories about him escaping, his doom.
Escaping or surviving? Now, like I said, it depends on the nation. Some countries capture you and they're like, come, we'll love you, and others are like, oh, well, the reason you're here is because you're a prisoner, so we're just gonna enslave you forever. We're not gonna kill you, but you're just gonna be slaves forever.
It's like, you're a prisoner.
That's what I was saying, Casablanca specifically.
Yeah.
So they basically enact your sentence and then your death sentence in their life.
Yeah, basically. And once again, Earth doesn't care.
Yeah, I mean, they're sending these people because they don't care about them.
What kind of criminals are sent to this penal colony, by the way?
At the
All
start,
Australians,
Because if they're all like psychopaths, I
universally-
don't think they're like a good
all
society would develop
Australians
out
have
of
to
that.
go. The whole continent, or island as I prefer to call it, is depopulated. I'm kidding. Anyone with a life sentence. Anyone with a life sentence.
Okay,
And
is life sentence defined as for life or 25 years? Because...
Wait, 25 years is
well,
considered
here's the deal.
a life
I don't-
sentence?
How low is your life expectancy for 25 years?
That's
is a life
just
sentence?
in the majority of Western countries, a life sentence is 25 years, and for life is your entire life.
Why
So
would-
it's
Why would that be called a life sentence?
it's
Oh
a
my
weird
God.
thing. It's just it's a
Because
It's
They
just,
only-
it's
Would your
misleading,
life
that's what it is.
expectancy
They
so
only
low
include
for
living if
25
you're
is
young.
life?
When you're old, you're not really living anymore, they think. So they just
Well,
don't like...
maybe a 25-year-old wants to kill someone. And then they get a
That's
life
why you
sentence.
get, that's why you
Like,
get like
surprise!
lifetime sentences.
Actually, you'd be surprised how often 25-year-olds kill people.
okay. So anyway, Cordain, when you say life sentence, is it for life or a typical?
It's not important that it's a solid distinction because it changes over time. For example, one of the characters is a political prisoner.
Okay, so I'm just gonna put life sentence in quotations.
Yes.
A political prisoner in a democracy? Impossible. I'm sorry.
Yeah. See, here's the
Welcome,
problem.
South America.
See, when I say political prisoner, what I mean is that he's a journalist.
Okay, now-
Oh, I see. That.
Oh, so he's from Venezuela.
I'm gonna have to cut so much of this out to not get murdered by the YouTube algorithm.
I don't think.
Anyway, I have a character idea already.
Oh, please,
If-
share.
Yeah.
Share.
How about a cadet who gets recruited when basically shit starts going down? Perhaps a pacifist that lets go of his peaceful and pacifistic views once the horrors of the war sink in.
So when you say cadet, is this person a native-born Bartian, or is he a new penal colonist?
Take it to any direction you want, especially because I think that the pacifistic views, like he's a bright person who basically gets shut down and completely changed by war. So
Okay,
He's a new
that's a good story.
Or
he's a new prisoner who was framed for a crime he didn't commit and didn't have a good enough lawyer, so he got sent here. And now he's also like, first of all, he doesn't even think that he should be here, and second of all, he's like, he's innocent. He didn't actually commit any crime, and he's a fairly pacifistic person.
but wouldn't a person who got sent to a penal colony and was still innocent be pretty salty and not very peaceful, quote to quote?
I mean, it depends.
I mean, if
He
he
could
didn't want
have
to
very
kill
strong
someone before, I
convictions,
know.
so long as
And
there's no
then,
death.
you know, I think at the end of this short story, you could say, you know, it took me going to jail, you know, to the penal colony to become a criminal, you know. Just have a Shawshank Redemption, just rip it right out of there.
Yeah. Well, again, it could be that he was such a pacifist earlier that this weakened it enough for him to actually change throughout the war.
But that kind of let's go of the point that it's the war and the horrors in the war specifically that changed him. No?
Yeah, but
Sort of like PTSD type of deal.
But again, if you reach the wall when everything in your life is going perfectly, or if you reach the wall where already you had something throw you off a little, it will obviously change greatly how it affects you.
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay, so do we have any more ideas beyond that?
I'm blank.
Let me give you a couple more examples of stuff I've come up with and to continue to seed your mind. On this world, lifer has two meanings. Life in prison you were sentenced to, and the new life you were given when you were sent here. They call it the bars, a prison planet for those that live here, Bartians. Cute, isn't it? They've been shipping lifers off here to the bars for much longer than I've been alive. 300 years, I've been told. Learned about it in school. And that Russia was one of the founding nations of the International Penal Authority. Who better to colonize a harsh world than those who subdued Siberia? But now I'm here myself, and it wasn't my fault. I never would have been shipped off if our jury handler knew how to do his job. Now he's probably dead, and I'm here. Getting frozen was no fun, but working chain gang alongside lowbrow criminals is worse. Dumber than stumps they are. I might be able to get to the top of the heap if I can harness their stupidity. This is a quote from Daniel Red Knuckles Popov while in the prison internment camp.
I gotta say, I'm really enjoying your writing style. It's really dope.
Oh, thank you. A couple more military characters. Here's a good example. A young recruit is in the Royal Bermhari Marines, and while he's a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to rock and roll. Let me read you his thing real quick. Finally, the naval life for me. Training with the Naval Royal Marines is behind me now, same as my father and his father. Turns boys into men, I've heard, and all my life I certainly hope. I certainly hope so. I can already feel it. My shirt already feels a bit tighter than before. We're shipping out for the Barrier Islands today, and I'm riding this sitting on the pier below a massive transport ship. It's my first deployment, and I'm excited. We are headed for the Barrier Islands, right at the edge of the Empire. Ganalian Islands are a stone's throw away, and they say they're itching for a fight. Boy, if they want one, we'll happily give them one. With thunder and fire, we'll meet them. With blood and tears, we'll drown them. And from the fires of hell, men will be born from boys. This is a young man, very young, and it turns out that he's a kleptomaniac. He never premeditates any sort of thievery, but it's when the opportunity arrives that he can't help himself. It starts out as small things, but over time, it eventually becomes larger things become more and more important as the war gets hotter.
Okay, we had two questions in the viewer chat, one from Carbon Dioxide and one from Colin. Colin, you can do it in the participant chat if you want to.
Carbon Dioxide asks, Cordain, are there any other races, long extinct ones? This is actually a question I have not considered, and thus far, I am not interested in having any additional species besides naturally occurring evolution on Vita Nova itself, which would probably include non-sentient life only. Colin says, "What's the level
They have custom dogs.
custom dogs?"
Yeah, I mean,
That's
okay,
specific.
it sounds like I'm joking, but it's if you
Yes.
look, it's a surprisingly common thing in like
Okay,
Ultimate World.
you bring up a good question. So I've considered this, and that is that if all of the organisms on this planet are exact carbon copies from Earth, that's one thing. But Earth has developed hundreds and hundreds of years before they even began a penal colony, and so many of the organisms on this world have been adapted to some of its environment. So you won't just have a mule-eared North American deer. It may be somewhat altered or different, but other than that, there are no other species or sentient peoples.
Okay.
Colin asks, what's the level of communication they're using? Morse code, letters, smoke signals? Would be important to know how well the governments can project their authority. So this is, they're at the level of like undersea cable, telegram, letters, that sort of thing. I'm sure some people are using smoke signs. Keep in mind that the longest standing government is like only 300 years old. So like here on Earth, we have like long-standing traditions, long-standing cultures, nations. I mean, I don't even know how old the United Kingdom Constitution is. I understand that's a really old document. But the oldest
The
individual on
UK
the
doesn't
planet-
actually have a single constitution.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
neither do we.
No.
Yeah, America kind of has two if you include the Declaration of Independence, which is basically a giant breakup letter. But anyway, so that kind of answers your question. There are on this planet a mix
I'm getting
of
flashbacks to Hamilton.
there's a mix of technological advances. So, for example, the main continent that you see on the map is called Oculus. There are many other continents, and most of them have. Oculus is the most technologically advanced group of cultures. There are several other continents, none as large as this one, but they're not near as advanced. For example, there's a country called Suluhar, which is basically a merge of Canada and Australia, and they have natives in the interior that they're come in frequent contact with, and it's usually violent contact. They might communicate with smoke signals, but other than that, most people are using telegram and letters.
Okay, so no like radio or things like that then.
That sounds fair. I do wonder though, how many cases throughout 300 years of the whole world would there be of people intentionally committing crimes when we know of certain like technologies to bring them over to this world because it sounds fun?
That's possible. However, after 200 years, they allow voluntary colonists to begin going to the planet, which gives them a huge population boost. And they're also the ones that bring. Take this with a giant grain of salt, and please don't laugh, but uncorrupted Earth religions.
Okay.
Because many of them are corrupted before they ever arrive. But everything before, so the first 200 years, there's only oral histories. But as soon as they allow other colonists to come, they come in pretty good numbers. They're able to bring cultural or religious documents with them, so they'll have copies of the Bible, the Quran, the Veda Bibles, whatever it be, and this mixes with the oral history religions that may have survived.
Is it
for that.
wrong that my brain went straight to the flying spaghetti monster? Like, straight
It's
to
not
there.
it's not wrong, but it is heretical.
Oh my god.
So
Like there's a group of people here that are called Gauls, Baul, like the Gallic people, and they're very tough people. And oftentimes, if you have friends that are tough, people will say that you have balls.
Ow.
My gosh.
told you, this world isn't just about tropes, it's about memes.
Fair. Fair.
Do we want to settle on like a point in time where we want to start the
Yeah,
short
let's start
story
with
off from?
let's start with. Go ahead.
I do have like one more question about this technology thing, because again, it's a very inorganic technological growth, and I just wonder how many like chaotic good or chaotic evil people throughout the years were just like, how about we introduce some really, really, really advanced technology to one of the nations that we like, and then just completely fuck the whole thing over. And
Yeah,
watch
that's
Yeah,
a
but
good
you're not
point.
allowed
That
to
could
bring
be.
That would be
anything with
you in that universe, girl.
Yeah, it will be.
Just you.
Yeah, the International Penal Authority would have to take a giant bribe to let you do that.
Okay.
So that could be, like I said, I'm not gonna hold you back if that's a cool story. We'll put it on there.
Yeah.
So I lost where I was going with this. Oh well.
Point in
Okay.
time
You said where are we gonna start? So I'd prefer to start with World War One. That way, if we were to do further, we have a base to work from. Which, like I said, the technology is somewhere between World War One and the Franco-Prussian War. So they've got breech loaders, bolt actions, no tanks, and there will be no tanks. Trench warfare, but
No
without
airplanes?
tanks. They will probably develop airplanes during the war. So the Wright brothers will have their first flight during the war. Like I said, I want technologies that you see at the beginning of World War One to be developed, some of them to be developed during the war. So at the very start, there's no trench
that's
warfare.
fair.
The be-
I mean,
At,
a lot
at
of
the
big.
beginning,
Sorry.
oh, finish what you're saying, Abnormal.
A lot of big technological advances were made because of necessity out of war.
Right, that's totally.
So that makes
You bring
sense.
up a very good point. Yeah. So you have so for example, the first half of the war is a mobile war. There's no trench warfare because repeating weapons such as a Maxim gun or the equivalent on this world are either the nations do not have them or they're not in prevalent enough numbers for them to make any difference. So imagine the German jet fighters during World War II. It's like, yeah, they had them, like a dozen, and there weren't enough of them to make any difference, but they were there. So, but trench warfare will develop in the latter half of the war as these nations increase their numbers of weapons of that sort.
You mentioned something about less intelligent life on the planet, right? Like lower level.
Non-sentient life.
Yeah, non-sentient life. Might I make a suggestion regarding that?
Please.
So, if you look at all of the large animals on Earth, you'll notice that they're all fairly similar in structure. So they're all fairly similar in structure. All have 4 limbs or 2 limbs and a tail if they're a fish in the ocean.
Right, the same amount of bones in their hand and wrist.
Bears would disagree with you.
Bears are just annoying.
I know, they always come into my house at the wrong time.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah,
sorry,
but the suggestion that I was making would be make it so that all of the large animals, all of the insectoid animals, all have a similar structure to within their own area. So, like, if you have something that's similar to a dragon, then every large animal should have 6 limbs.
I see what you're saying. So, but keep in mind that these are Earth animals, perhaps slightly altered or evolved since their arrival.
Okay,
so there's likely not going to be any major changes.
So they've been brought from Earth.
Yeah, that was the purpose of the seed colony.
Okay,
The seed
never
colony came to seed the planet with Earth life.
never mind
also
my
bring
suggestion. Then.
Australia?
Say again, Gerb?
Did they also bring stuff from Australia?
Look, this world already has dangerous criminals on it.
It doesn't need everything else.
I don't
Doesn't
think-
need to kill you as well.
I don't think
It
we need
doesn't need
Shelob in a
black
basilisk.
widows and snakes.
I'm just wondering because, like, a replay of the Emu War would be kind of funny.
A second emu war. Except
Yeah.
the natives on Suluthar could ride the emus into battle. Anyway,
Also,
that's
we've
that's
spoken about
a specific question that I haven't delved deep enough into because I'd rather get the characters down than
we've spoken
figure
about
out whether or not we want to choose an island to turn into a sadistic death trap.
yikes. Spoken about how Earth just doesn't, frankly, give a crap about the colony. But does it still keep tabs on it? Like, does
So
it still watch
that's a
it?
good
Does it
question.
still-
So, what happens if, say, you have an uncle who was found that was accused of murder and found guilty and sent to Vita Nova to become a Bartian, and you're like, look, I don't think he really did it, and I want to know what's going on with my uncle. I want to know where his ship landed, and I want to know what's going on in that country. So Earth, when they land the ships transporting the people colonists, there are Earthlings on there to transport them. They don't get off, and they don't communicate other than move, stay away, record in this area. If you get too close to me, I have an Earth gun. I'm gonna, blow you all the come with. Other than that, the only communication is literally to observe through telescope.
Okay. Like what I meant. That's what I meant. If the government keeps tabs on the colony.
Eventually, there's enough Earth people, not Earth governments, enough Earth people that want to get a view. And so what I'm thinking about doing is actually making it so that it's a private venture, that you can pay money to look through to get some of the data from the satellites to view the planet, and so it becomes a private venture. So rather than governments doing it, because like I said, they don't care. But you might have some sort of year 2700 Elon Musk who's like, dude, we can send a telescope into space and a satellite, and we can watch them, and we'll charge them money, and boom, we'll put flamethrowers on it.
And boom, Telsa. Tesla. Wait, fuck.
And they'll have a pay-per-view channel where you just watch people, because humans are dumb like that.
The Truman
What
Show!
I meant, again, is
Yeah, the Truman Show.
The government, I know that they don't give a shit, but is there some poor underpaid intern just watching the colonies being like, oh fuck, they're developing, maybe to warn Earth? I don't know. Do they keep tabs on it, like specifically the government?
That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far.
Oh,
I
okay.
think maybe.
I see.
Now, here's the deal: is that they can't communicate because the Bartians don't have any technology to communicate back with, unless they want to use giant hexadecimal panels on the surface to communicate, so people can see. So send a one-way message. Other than that, you'd have to trust that the seed colony could communicate. But do they send? They probably have satellites in space. If they want to be a modern people on this planet, they might have satellites observing, and why not communicate? But keep in mind, if I don't know, I mean, they probably don't have an Ansible like from my Ender's Game. We have instantaneous communication across impossible distances. But that's a question that we could definitely delve into, or you've asked me that question. I'm gonna actually write that question down. It's a good question.
Yeah, I was wondering also, like, what stops any government from deciding to just dump the trash in there, like both human and non-human trash? Because they're already dumping the human trash in there, according to them. So, like, I was wondering.
What do you mean by non-human trash?
Basically, like, actual trash, not just
Okay, I was about to say, very
Like
careful
instead of
with
the Pacific Ocean.
talk about.
I mean, they
Yeah,
want to dump
I
it
gotcha.
somewhere, probably not in Fell Planet.
Just like, we don't want these venomous spiders anymore. Let's send them all there.
Yeah, well, here's the deal: that the reason
That's what they did with
send
Australia,
people-
I thought.
That is exactly what they
Aren't
did.
said venomous spiders important for like the universe, or like the world, or some environmental shit?
Probably.
Probably like.
Shit
Like-
out of people.
So the reason why Earth governments send these people to the planet is not because they get any financial benefit. Like, it costs them money to send people to this planet with no return. This is a This is a judicial compromise between two groups. So to send actual trash there would not be cost effective, because sending trash would be simply a economic venture, whereas the colonists are a justice system venture.
I just
see.
had another idea.
Please.
What if they send it with the colonists?
Yeah, that just increases the weight, and you don't want to give them any useful trash, because the point is they're supposed to arrive with their brain in two hands, and that's it.
So,
Okay,
You
anormals.
also
You
have the fact
mentioned.
that there's probably environmentalists on Earth that you can't deport this nasty species. It's important to the history of Earth, conservation, and you probably have Greenpeace like blowing up one of the transports to free all the poisonous spiders.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yes, peace in quotation marks, and they blow stuff up.
Anormal. You mentioned having another idea.
Yeah. One of the people who basically like escort the criminals to the colonies. What if they decided to stay there and hide there? Whether it's because they fell in love with one of the criminals and then want to stay there with them, or because they had a shitty life on Earth, so they decided to stay in the colony. Basically, a colony escort that decides to be like, "Fuck it, I'm running away. I'm staying there." I think it would be interesting to see if the government wants to send people to bring them back, or if the government continues not to give a shit. It would be an interesting.
Or they could also say, look, we can't do anything about this guy, but we will notify the seed colony that they need to get this guy and find him.
Yeah, that would be interesting, I think.
You could have like a Cold War like spy thriller, but set in another planet, 1900.
Yep.
Carbon dioxide asks, how many moons does this planet have?
I've thought about this, but haven't come to any conclusion. But I know I really wanted to have tides, because naval settings will be a major setting. So discuss amongst yourselves and tell me how many moons you want. That was a joke. Okay, calm down. But I don't know. Not 200. It's slightly smaller than Earth. So if it had an Earth-like moon, or maybe a few smaller moons to maybe mess up the tides a lot, that would be pretty cool.
Or a Death Star?
That's no moon. That's your mother. I'm just kidding.
I'm glad I just got back to hear
like,
this
this is the
burn.
level of humor.
Yeah, no offense to Alec, but this is definitely funnier than the last one.
Yeah, that's fair.
On that criminal escort idea, I think it would be interesting if you kind of switched back to Earth during the short story, had them notified, and had them just kind of go, well, he has some high-tech stuff with him. Why don't we use this as an experiment and watch to see what he does?
I'll tell you what. The thing is, we had something happen in Israel, that a soldier got kidnapped or something, and for years, the family, like everyone, were pestering the government about bringing the soldier back. So what would be interesting is to see if the government would give a shit or not. If the government would like want to bring said escort back, like would there be people on Earth? Would there be like, how's it called?
I mean, I'll take time.
Words are hard.
I'll take time.
Protests.
Yeah,
Protests, like, would that happen back on Earth? Or...
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. You could also have a conflict between the International Penal Authority and the nation that the escort was from, and the seed colony, and the other nations, all having a different opinion of what to do with this person that is gone rogue.
I will slightly interject about this, because if we're basing it anywhere near how it actually worked in real life, one of the reasons these things took so long is because the governments really don't give a shit usually.
Exactly.
It would actually, like, I think 15 years for some of these to get a government that gives a shit. There's still a lot of people missing like that they don't give a shit about. And furthermore, usually when they do give a shit, they don't give a shit about getting them back as much as they give a shit about not letting them live long enough in captivity. So, yeah.
Or at least they have to have some sort of
It's gonna turn a lot darker than you expect, probably.
right, but you also have to have your PR. So even if you don't accomplish the goal you want, you can always have your PR spin it and say, you know, because here's the thing, you also don't want other escorts thinking they can do this.
So
That, to
this
me,
would be a
as an
reason
Earth
to
government,
chase them
if I
down.
were a leader of an Earth government, that would be my #1 concern. I don't
Yeah.
give two craps about the technology compared to, I don't want other escorts thinking this is acceptable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe we got to find
Actually,
this
vibing
Joker
with
and
this one more than the cadet one. I'm gonna write that.
see. We already have a story where one person's a former alcoholic. Maybe we just need to have an actual current alcoholic. No? Okay. We won't do that either. You guys are killing me.
I didn't actually understand what you said.
I said I have a story
Just
where there's a former
Dead
alcoholic. And
silence.
maybe the story would be more interesting if you had a current alcoholic.
Yeah, that will always be more interesting. Give him a shotgun and watch him go.
There you go.
God.
I'm not writing that down.
Okay, so here's one for you guys to continue to seed thoughts. So, one of the characters I have written up is a Alabast infantry lieutenant who was injured and is now convalesced. However, he can't return to his old unit because they already have someone else in command. So instead, he's given charge over. He's placed in a punishment battalion to be in command of a company there. He's creative and resourceful, magnifies the skill of his company of misfits. While he's there, he realizes that this group of people being punished in the military didn't really do anything really criminal. They just haven't swallowed the Kool-Aid, and that's why they're in the punishment battalion. So he's literally in a indoctrination battalion, not really a
Haven't
punishment
swallowed
battalion.
the Kool-Aid. Is that an expression you often use?
In the United States, we do. Drink the Kool-Aid. Drink the Kool-Aid means
Good to know.
you're totally buying into all of the it's an expression to insult the person you're talking about because you're telling them that they believe something that's obviously wrong. It's obviously wrong. It's obviously
It's
crazy.
like calling them sheeple, but more elaborate.
Write that down. Write that down.
Yes, it's calling them sheeple. So, however, so he's got this company of men he's in charge of, and when he first gets there, he thinks they're all going to be criminals, like murderers and killers. Well, I guess they're soldiers, but they're murderers or disobedient, this, that, the other thing. But really, they just haven't taken in the propaganda, and then he suddenly realizes that that's why he's there, is because he hasn't taken the propaganda either. But he has to somehow make success out of his company of misfits.
Okay,
So that's another short story.
I'm going to cut you off there. We're not going to have any more short story ideas. We're going to start on either voting for short stories or writing one of them if there's just a unanimous decision, because we're 80 minutes in now.
Yes, we are.
We are.
But I wanted to pitch my idea about people worshipping Earthlings. Just kidding.
Yeah,
What?
come on, Carbon.
People worshipping what?
I gotta say,
Earthlings.
I'm amazed by the amount of people who have carbon in their name in this conversation.
Yeah,
It
Two
all
of
started
them.
with carbon, and then we have carbon copy, and we have carbon dioxide, and I'm just waiting for the next one.
I love how you're talking about them like they're pets. We first had carbon, then we had carbon the copy, then we had carbon just
Technically,
the way
both
I'm
people.
wording this is
And then
ridiculous.
carbon dioxide had cancer.
Well, I was gonna say he was peeing on the floor, so we had to get rid of him.
Yeah, we rehomed him, adopted a new dog, and gave him the same name.
Oh my god.
and now we have carbohydrates.
Yes.
I kind of feel like that's my fault.
Boom, baby.
Well, carbohydrates, at least that's got a bunch of oxygen and hydrogen in it as well. That's slightly
Okay,
different.
stop.
Anyway, let's get to actually voting on one of these. Okay, so I assume that none of you can read my writing.
I can decipher it.
Just zoom in so it's a little bit closer. Just the 1.14.
Considering I'm driving, no, I can't read it.
That's fair enough.
When you're driving, how do you read street signs?
You can read, you don't want to read. There's a big difference.
That's as close as I can go, unless you want me to.
Oh, perfect. No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, for me, it's even worse than it is for you, because this is a 1080p screen, but it's only a 12-inch screen.
Oof.
So you can see it.
Any of that means?
It's a high-quality, tiny screen.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
So yeah, you guys can see it on your full screen. I can only see it on this tiny little tablet thing. But I can lean in and just read closer anyway, so it's fine.
Have fun getting glasses.
So for those who don't benefit from the visual, I'll just read them so we can all get a refresher. So number 1, cavalryman dealing with the decline of cavalry. Number 2, secret shipment of people into colony. Number 3, conflict with high-tech island, the seed colony. Number 4, former alcoholic who's conscripted. Number 5, abducted Kasi blonde soldier, a newly arrived Bartian. Number 6, cadet recruited into war and is broken out of his pacifism, PTSD in parentheses. Number 7, soldier on first deployment, he's a kleptomaniac. Number 8, international penal authority is bribed. Number 9, domestication of emus to form an emu empire. Number 10, moral conflict on Earth. Number 11, observation via satellite around Vita Nova. Number 12, criminal escort chooses to stay, keeps high-tech assets. Number 13, espionage plot connected with number 12. And number 14, punishment battalion, not criminal, simply not indoctrinated yet.
So, did any of those stick out to anyone? So these were all ideas from various people at various times.
Emus.
Emus, yeah. Yo, the emus rock. Unless you're Australian, then they definitely suck.
They are horrible pests.
I like the secret shipment idea. Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. I like the espionage plot line of, like, there's this escaped criminal escort, a penal escort, and we can't do anything about it, so we have to somehow convince the seed colony.
I would say I like
to
it too, but I
capture
came up with it, so I feel like that would be cheating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's cheating.
So what do we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Elevator, live long and prosper, third place, and fountain as reactions for voting.
Okay.
So, okay, so everyone has voted because we have 12 votes.
Well thought out. This whole entire world as well. My world building is like, yes, magic go whoosh.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Magic
Anyway,
does
the
go
Amish
whoosh.
evolve too. What?
Anyway,
Alright.
Okay, let's continue.
we very clearly have a favorite. We've got 12 votes, so everyone has taken 2 votes. Well, at least 6 out of the 7 people have.
And 12 and 13 are connected stories, so we
Yeah.
actually have half our votes just for one larger short story.
We do. We do indeed.
All right, so let's get into it.
So we get to move away from here.
Yes.
Are you
start a
actually
new
gonna
line.
write it like entirely with your mouse?
Yes, right. The whole thing with the mouse. You have a pen, don't you, Carmen?
Yeah, I've got a
You have an
pen.
actual pen.
It's a writing tablet. I've
Oh,
got a pen
God.
with it, yeah. I'm not doing it with
God,
my
I'm
mouse.
either very stupid or I don't know. I have no excuse.
Some high
I'm just very
quality
stupid.
production value.
Yeah. So what we have is a criminal escort chose...
So wait, is criminal escort is as in he's a criminal who's escorting, or he's escorting criminals? Dang, this English language is so hard.
Or is he an escort that deals with criminals? Because you know,
Ooh,
even
a
criminals
male
get lonely
escort.
sometimes.
A male
Okay.
escort who deals with
So
criminals.
the escort of criminals
Sorry, hold on. Let us laugh for a second, Carmen. Oh man, they get bored on that ship. Anyway.
Oh, God.
By the way, how long does it take for them to get there?
I don't care.
I mean, if they get there in like 80, like
They're frozen. They're frozen.
okay.
Yeah. So in the quote from Daniel Redneckles Popoff, he says, now I'm here myself. It wasn't my fault. I never would have been shipped off here if our jury handler knew how to do his job. Now he's probably dead and I'm here. Getting frozen was no fun, but working chain gang outside with lowbrow criminals is worse. So they get frozen.
I need to think about a motivation for the escorts to stay.
Maybe they become disillusioned with their job because by the end, so like I said at the beginning, the International Penal Authority is a mostly non-corrupted organization. They're literally just sending people who are life sentenced or death penalty escapee. Like instead of getting the death penalty, you can get to go to this planet as well. Okay, so this is the compromise between the life sentences, people that are in favor of life sentences, and the people that are in favor of the death penalty. This is the compromise. Well, like I said, towards the end, you start having political people. You start having people who commit crimes just so they can go here because they don't have enough money. Like, if you want to go there on your own, you can go. You just need the money, but I don't have the money. Like homeless people in Nebraska. During the wintertime, they just go punch police officers so they can be in prison for the winter. They just commit a crime small enough that they can go to jail for a little while and stay warm, and then when the spring's there, they get let out, and then they do their thing. It's not terribly common, but it happens. So you can have this, and I'm just spitballing here. You could have this character become disillusioned because they meet the prisoners, or maybe they're in the middle of putting one of them on ice, and they're like, no, don't ice me. And they get iced. I don't know. You could have all sorts of things make them disillusioned, or it could be a sense of adventure, or maybe they committed a crime.
I was thinking
Or
about
maybe they snuck. They were able to pull some strings, and they got on a transport where their significant other, who was accused of a crime, was on, and so they had planned to bail with their significant other the whole time.
Ooh.
I thought about it too, but I kind of promised myself to stay away from cheesy stories because that's basically all I write.
You can never have enough cheese.
I was
So
thinking
true.
maybe the escort was like, maybe ran into like a criminal, a really like young criminal who got sent there.
Yeah,
for a
maybe
crime
you have
they
like
didn't commit,
Maybe
and they
like
sort of like
nephew or
assist,
something that.
like a brotherly role, maybe a fatherly role, being like, you were sent here for the wrong reasons. I will stay here to protect you. You're young and you're stupid,
and we know what
Yes.
happens to newcomers when they arrive on the planet.
yeah, and you're young and you're stupid and you're a newcomer, so I will have to protect you, basically.
Or you could also have like be a spur of the moment thing. So take this for example. You could make it so that, because keep in mind the International Penal Authority eventually becomes more and more corrupt because they got to fill the ship. They got to find a way to fill this thing before they send it off, right? So you could have like a 16-year-old that killed someone by accident, so it's manslaughter.
Yeah.
So technically wouldn't get him a life sentence, but we got to fill this ship up, so send him on. And they're like, well, what the heck? And so you have this escort that's on the ship with them. They get to know them just a tiny bit. 1 out of 12,000 people, this person's pointed out to them, or their attention is drawn to them. You could then make it so that as they're coming closer to landing, this guard learns that they're landing in Casablanca, which they know will turn all of them into slave soldiers and kill most of them. And so this person's like, I am going to escape with this young person who didn't do anything wrong. Say they stole their mom's car and hit someone and killed them by accident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Manslaughter, not murder, manslaughter. And they deserve some sort of justice, some sort of punishment, but not being sent to a penal colony to serve as a child soldier in Casablanca's war and die.
Okay.
So what if
And
this?
they only learn about this like 20 minutes before they land, so it's like a spur of the moment. They're not quite ready, but they got it.
So what if?
Stick with me here. Continue, I'll wait.
Okay. So what if this young person has some kind of like hero complex or something, and they say, hey, you've told me about Carsiblan now, criminal escort guy. I don't want these other people to get hurt either. Can we go into Carsiblan and see, or into the Carsiblan government and see if there's anything we can do to stop them?
Quick question: why would the penal authority like land people at Carsiblan if they know they're gonna be enslaved there?
They don't care.
Yeah.
It is random.
I don't think so. That if they care enough to like not wanting to kill them, that they then would like specifically land where they know they're gonna get enslaved.
It sounds
Okay,
more like
okay.
far from life, far from hell, or something. Or however
But
it's
you
called.
can also go. Okay, this is gonna be a super spicy take. Okay, so the EU has two capitals, one in Strasbourg and one in Brussels, and they move back and forth twice a year between the two capitals. And the only way you can change that arrangement is with a unanimous vote with all the countries. So almost every country wants to change that except for France, because they benefit from it being in Strasbourg. You could have it so that in order to change this random landing, you'd have to have a nearly unanimous vote or a giant supermajority to change it, and that's why it's like. So you may actually have people saying we don't like. You have a majority of Earthlings saying we don't want to keep sending people to Carsiblan. They just kill them. But then the political structure is so rigid that it can't be changed.
Okay, but what would be the argument for anyone from Earth to say, "Oh yeah, I want to veto that. I want them to get sent there."
If it's set up in a I'm just spitballing again. If it's set up in a what's what I'm looking for, an inflexible enough structure, you could have like a 10% minority hold off everyone else from changing anything.
Or even a 1% minority of like just people that are
Yeah, but
sadistic.
what would be the argument? What would be the argument? Because in the EU,
You're not
France
from
is benefiting
America,
from
so
the...
you're not familiar with
Well,
the
it's possible that it could cost more money to rewrite the algorithm, because there could be some algorithm that picks a place that's actually a very complex algorithm, and so they're saying, we don't want to hire more programmers to write another algorithm, because this is a complicated algorithm.
I'm more in favor of going the route of you have a small minority who thought they were the ones that compromised and said, okay, we will stop executing murderers and rapists in favor of sending them to this planet, but secretly they still want to kill them, right? Because they think this is the compromise, and so they thought, well, we can still get the compromise closer to our version if once in a while we send a ship to Carsiblan.
Okay, but
Okay, I can agree with that. Then.
stick with me and tell me if it's too angsty. Let's say the escort and the criminal are like talking, and the criminal's insisting that they're not supposed to be there, that they didn't do whatever crime it said they've done. Let's say murder for someone close to him, and the criminal insists, I didn't do it, and the criminal is very young. So the escort decides to stay, and the story happens, but towards the end, the escort actually finds out that the criminal did do it. Imagine the betrayal.
Ooh,
Imagine
that's
the
awesome.
emotions.
That is a
but
really good
because-
like Act 3 reveal for the short story.
Yeah.
My point of contention with that would have been because like how does he know that he didn't do it? Like, Source, do you trust me?
Because of the innocent 16-year-old face staring at him and panicking like, I didn't do it.
No,
please,
that's why I like
trust me,
that's why I like the plot twist.
Yeah, he gave
If
him
you want-
puppy dog eyes and then played a reverse card afterwards, and he just went,
If you want instant
Exactly.
sympathy, if you want instant sympathy, make the criminal a 15-year-old girl. And boom, like
Yeah.
you'll get way more
that would
sympathy.
be good.
You get
Well,
way
yeah,
more
well,
sympathy.
Let's say the
Couldn't this-
15-year-old girl killed her, I don't know, mother or
Aunt.
father because of abuse, and then it's like, wait, you actually killed her?
So,
Yes, but I knew you wouldn't understand, which is why I told you I didn't.
Yeah, there you go.
also like sue that she's also suing their officers, because that would literally like check all the boxes for a story like this.
Wait, say that again, Gerb.
but there was some sort of sewing involved, like afterwards, where she like sewing like for clothing, but she's sewn some parts of them together, and then like this person doesn't believe that she's that sadistic, and then she's like, yeah, I totally did it. In the end.
But like, I would basically take the entire connection they've developed, the entire emotional dependency they have on each other, and just erase it. It would be like with the ending of Game of Thrones, where they took all the character development of Jaime Lannister and yeeted it to the trash.
Mhm.
I mean, look.
So what you do is you have the escort then rationalize everything.
Yeah, and then in the end, like when everybody like finishes reading the story, we're just like, simp.
So
No. She's 15. That's rapey. Please no.
so in this
Simp.
so in that case of he still actually cares about protecting the kid after she even says I am actually a criminal. Then
I mean, in my head, I don't know why. In my head, the escort is a female. Maybe because it's a motherly role, sort of, because of, like, the motherly sort of.
okay, the currently
instinct
genderless
that made her
amorphous
stay.
blob escort.
Yeah.
The currently
The
genderless
blob.
amorphous blob escort. The reason they still care might be because the kid actually took an interest in trying to change things in Casablanca, and then that's kind of the plot. And then when she says, "Hey, I actually did it," then it kind of makes the escort go, "Well, you're a horrible person, yeah, but also you're kind of changing and doing nice things now."
Oh, I like that.
And so it
that's good.
kind of ends in he's conflicted, and so it's kind of asking the audience reading it, what is your take on this?
But
Well,
I think
in
that
one
the audience is supposed to feel betrayed of the
Yeah.
story they read, and like, wait, she did do it? What the? They just
Yeah,
Again,
tear out the
I have
paper
two
and
things.
go
I have
cry.
two things. Go ahead, Gerb.
in one sentence, we can sum up like his attitude in the end, like potentially. Thanks, Satan.
So I have two things to add here. One, his name will be Yeet. Two, also keep in mind that if you're landing a ship full of criminals into a nation that's going to strip you into a slave army with very little discipline, and you are a 15-year-old girl, not to get too edgy, but you are in serious danger just being in a group of people.
Well, yeah.
And so they could also be another reason why he wants to help her escape, is because if she is innocent and you're on a ship full of criminals and you're
Exactly.
a 15-year-old girl, you're in some serious danger.
Especially if you have big puppy eyes and you manage to convince a fucking army escort that you're
And you're
innocent.
wearing an anime outfit, who knows?
And also the strength to sue two people together.
I would like to discuss one part of the logistics of like dropping these people off, because
Please.
if there's like 12,000 people being dropped off at once with literally
Why
nothing on them
12,000?
aside from their
Whoops.
clothes, how many of them will starve to death in like, I don't know, a week?
A
At
lot.
At the start, a lot, but hopefully very few of the women will starve.
What do you mean?
They're the only ones that we actually care about.
Yeah, because they're the only ones who can produce new humans.
Yeah, and we have
Fair-
an
Oh,
excess
yeah.
of people. We have an excess of men. We have
They're the bottleneck.
11,700 men.
But
Yeah.
like, I'm pretty sure that the people who were arguing for, well, let's not kill those people, would at least give them like supplies for, I don't know, a
And
month.
maybe they have supplies for a week or more.
Yeah, I mean, you
Maybe
need
they
to
just
get set up,
supplies
you
are
need to either hunt or you need to get to farming, and farming will at least take like, what, let's say 3 months, depending on what kind of plant or stuff you're
I mean,
growing.
hunting would be more logical, I
Yeah, but-
guess.
Yeah, but 12,000 people all in one place,
You're gonna
Probably
run down the
not.
resources
They're
very
gonna,
quickly.
they're gonna like resort to cannibalism, aren't they?
Well, here's something you could do. This is a very good question. I'm glad you asked it. You could have the ship descend, or it arrives over the planet. It's in orbit, and as it descends, it uncouples from its sections, so that way they can land in kind of a general area. So say they landed in like an area, all 12,000 people are in the area like the size of like Rhode Island. For you non-Americans, it's
It's about the
smaller
same size as
parts.
Crete. Rhode
Yeah,
Island is
yeah,
about
it's
the same
I
size
was
as
never
Crete.
really good at geography. I'm just going to pretend I know what you're talking about.
In fact, I think
Hey.
Crete's bigger than Rhode Island.
Not by much. Not by much.
So they're
I-
basically spread around, like, in the general area. Okay, that would
For a
make
moment,
more
I was
sense.
thinking of maybe just having them like with like these really basic escape pods. Like that happened because I thought like that would be funny if the ship explodes when they get there. But like these general escape pods where they're like really ill-equipped but can house a lot of people and barely land.
Yeah,
So
Don't
Earth
give
has
them-
Here's the
super.
other thing. Here's the other thing is that with these landing zones, if you know, depending on how they're determined, it could affect the wars. So like if the people are dropped in and it's the same area every time, but it's the same generalized area, like so if you're gonna land them in
Casablanca. Zynet. Alibast.
in Casablanca, then it's you know, you're gonna be
Think the
jumping
microphone
around
is
and you're gonna
broken?
be trying to anticipate.
I can't hear shit.
Yeah, no, like the point of like if it's in the same general areas, they will definitely become like contested territories.
That's
That's
true.
the
And
point.
instead of like one area, you could have it land in like half a dozen areas. Like every time it comes, it's gonna be one of these 6 or so zones. Because I don't want it to be one spot, because I need it to be. I want the population dispersion throughout the planet's geography to be somewhat even.
So Earth has very high-tech technology, right? It's very
They do.
technologically
They
advanced.
go to other
Is
planets.
Earth like with modern technology?
Postmodern.
Postmodern. Okay.
So is it possible?
Has a better connotation to it.
Is it possible that they could just hover above the planet and just kind of do a Star
Yeet
Trek
them
teleport
down.
everyone down?
No teleportation because I don't like it, and so likely you could do like make the people repel off the ship, so the ship never touches the surface, and the people have to like parachute or rappel down or something like that, or it could come
We can
down.
make it like a
ramp
battle
drops.
royale.
Make it like what?
Like
Make
a
them all like
battle royale.
ODS. Make them like a bunch of ODSTs and drop down and drop pods.
No. You have a flying bus and we jump out of it.
Oh my gosh!
Oh
get outta
no,
here.
it's not.
You're leaving the chat. You're leaving the
You
chat.
you
Get outta here.
12-year-old.
Reminds me of
King would be generous.
Divergence.
But I mean, like, if you think about it seriously, like memes aside, it's probably the best way to disperse them.
Yeah, it's also the best way to kill them.
No, you can.
I mentioned
Yeah,
the
but
big
don't
ass
tell them how to
ship.
open it.
Well, you just
Why
give
would
them an
they need an
umbrella and they'll
escort?
land safely.
I mentioned like a big ass ship just landing and the soldiers, you know, just poking them with their guns and telling them to move out.
That's exactly what I think of too.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
love soldiers when they poke me with their guns.
A bunch of
And
drop
lasers
ships
that go
from
back.
Rouse, rouse.
a bunch of drop ships from a larger ship in orbit would kind of make more sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
'Cause it-
nice. Yeah.
It takes effort. It takes a lot of energy to get into space. So you can just
I
kind
know.
of go, okay, let's just keep this big ship in space so that we don't have to use the energy to get back into space again. Put the drop ships down and then just bring them back into space.
Here's another. Here's
But
another
I
thing.
like it.
One more thing to add to that, and that is that in order to return to orbit, you're going to need a lot of power. So another reason why the population has to disperse is literally you have rocket boosters that are all going to activate all at the same time. From several ships, it's best if you are far away when these rockets activate.
Yeah, run away before you get burned to death.
Yeah, it's like get off the ship
I
in
know
6
what it
hours
is
or
about it that's giving me Hunger Games vibes. I don't know why.
Yep, same.
Like that's the
I-
vibe I get.
I
The
haven't
reason
really-
the reason why it's not Hunger Games is because no one has weird fire beards.
Yikes.
We can change that, can't we?
I have a suggestion for this person. Why do we have to have all these ships necessarily land in one place? Why not have it so that, for example, like one of the tiny ships lands,
Whoa.
and some people drop off, and then it drives off for a bit, and then some more people drop off.
That's
And
true.
then with
So,
that-
But so they're just
Alright.
driving and they're just chucking people off as they drive.
Or we have bus stops. You can choose.
he's sticking with the bus idea. Get it?
Yeah.
They just have people.
Just a battle bus, I swear.
Just all of the people are in bags, and they pick up a bag each time, and they just toss it
Europe
out.
really wants buses
Hey,
to exist.
Carbon,
I'm
back
just
me up
trying
on this.
to make it
No,
look like laugh at
we-
Fortnite, okay?
We'd need at least 100 women in each group, so that way there's enough genetic diversity that you don't have issues with interbreeding.
I would agree with that. I would actually say at least 200, but 100 is good enough.
You need some consistency. You can't just rely on that, or like everything going perfectly, especially with a bunch
It
of.
gets so much darker when you think about the fact that one of the women is 15.
Yeah.
I mean, technically,
We don't want
right,
interbreeding because not everyone on these ships are
we
from
don't have. We don't have
It also
like.
depends on the society,
laws
right?
We don't have laws about like age of consent in them, technically.
Yeah, there's no age of
Exactly,
consent
which
on
makes
this
it
planet.
so dark.
It's flawless.
Well, it's better than.
It's not dark if you're in Japan or
Oof.
India. I think you're gonna
Or
have
that-
to cut that part out. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I will cut that out.
Mhm.
Hey guys, I know that this is my world we're working in, but I gotta duck out here in just a few minutes.
Fair enough.
Okay, so we'll have
we're
a
almost
whole
at time.
we'll have a whole bunch of stuff that can get cut out and stuff, so we can drag on Vatican City for having an age of consent of 12.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh yeah, Vatican City's age of consent is 12.
But only for boys.
I'm sorry, what?
Getting spicy in here.
This is getting darker and darker by the minute. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think the story is great. I think we came up with a great story. And you guys have taken the setting and you guys have really run with it. And this is awesome.
Okay, so do we want to just get a few opening lines out, of the story out, and then each person, if they want to, can expand that opening, and then we can see what we like next time we have a.
Okay, so
How would,
here's the opening line.
I
Here's
have
the
a quick
opening line.
question.
Oh, go ahead.
How would we make it logistically work? Like flows the story, like the flashbacks, sort of not flashbacks, but like the setting change of back to Earth. How would that work logistically? How would
I don't
it
know.
flow?
Page break,
I guess we'll
Earth, page break.
cross that bridge when we get to
My,
it. Okay.
my style is to just break and do no transition.
Ah, okay. Noted.
That's my personal style. But here's a good opening line. I didn't notice her until I realized that this Japanese girl was 15 years old.
No.
That's a yikes from me.
Did you also notice there were siblings?
So if they're in anime,
He looked up to me and said, "Yeech-sama."
Just make it a cat girl and be done with it.
His name is
Why?
Yeet. His name is Yeet. Okay.
so if this is an anime girl, then presumably she looks like an 80-year-old.
Oh no.
She's an anime girl.
Oh,
She's
no, no,
15
no.
and she looks like she's 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did he notice that it was 15? How the fuck did he predict that?
He looked at her really hard, very intently.
That doesn't help.
That doesn't help it. I am gonna have to cut so much
okay,
out.
Okay, how about
It
this?
does help if you have some alcohol.
How about? Oh my God! Why? Why are
Why
you
not?
people like this?
It costs us $0
Coming from a
to be-
person who doesn't drink any alcohol, it just makes it more funny for me to say that. Anyway,
How
I
about
gotta go.
starting it with quotations or sorry, come back to me later. Words are hard.
Carbon, I gotta go now. Will you? Are you gonna post a copy of these notes somewhere?
I will. I can export it as an SVG file.
Awesome. See ya.
Okay,
Thanks,
I
guys.
think.
See it.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, Cordain.
Okay, now that he's gone, we have to ruin it. How do we ruin it? What more than we already have?
Okay.
I think my brain is willing to cooperate with me now. Starting it with like sort of quotations, maybe like an announcement throughout like the speakers and the.
So
ship,
you
or,
want
like,
you want to start with a line of dialogue.
like yeah, with a line of dialogue, but like maybe from the speakers of the ship or something she's getting like in contact in an earpiece, like the fact that they're landing, like initiating landing in like 20 seconds, something like that.
And then it like declares the destination, and then
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way to sort of set
maybe
this
like
up.
a scale with like a wheel of like where do you land, and then it rolls on like this place, and everybody's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
That could be a good introduction to it.
So just
Exactly.
good morning, prisoners. Today we will be landing in Casablanca.
Sounds so.
Enjoy your stay.
Enjoy your stay and try not to die.
And try really hard not to die.
I also want to make it canon that the system has the PD system has an Australian accent, please.
It can be arranged.
Yes, I will ask.
I mean, I technically have an Australian accent because I am
Which is
Australian.
exactly why I said it.
But are you looking for stereotypical Australian or my Australian? Because
Hello, mate.
Yeah, because like your Australian doesn't have a word count in it at all.
it does not. It does not. I'm gonna have to cut that out as well.
I wouldn't just bother at this point, Carbon, really. Like,
I mean, look,
Seriously.
if
you want to get the video done before, like, Sylvester.
Before Christmas.
technically
Yeah.
rolls
Just like- Just like
Is this when we start inserting
100%
other
what
kinds
you,
of
what you can keep,
racist jokes to get
20%.
this fluff?
So, which Australian accent do you want? Do you want the Queensland accent? Do you want people to just sound like this? Do you want the announcer to just sound like this all the time?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay.
This is gonna be the most like nonchalant, deaf announcement.
Exactly. Exactly. That's part of its charm.
G'day, guys. We'll be landing in Casablanca today. The
Yes.
the locals here, they will enslave you, but don't worry about that, because you will most likely die if you stay too close to the ship when it takes off. So if you don't want to be enslaved, you've got an easy way to kill yourself.
Music to my ears.
That's oddly uplifting.
Also, like, I feel like that would be a robotic voice, like Gladys from Portal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When exactly does Yeet first meet the girl, by the way? Oh, wait.
I imagine.
Have we decided on him being a guy now, or are we gonna go for?
I mean,
a
if you
female
want to
girl?
call him a simp, yes.
Is it Yeet or Yeetet?
Yeet will be eaten.
I still, I don't know, it still makes more sense for me that it would be a woman just because of the motherly instinct.
Motherly
I don't
instinct
want
makes
anyone
sense, yeah.
simping for a 15-year-old because
Yeah,
that's kind of rapey.
Let's be honest.
That is very rapey, yeah.
Yeah, so a woman with a motherly instinct would make a lot more sense to me.
I mean, no, but that's just assuming that women can't be rapey.
Well, women can be rapey, but like we could make it a man with a fatherly instinct as well.
Yeah, no, that makes more sense. Wait, no, actually, a family might be a bad idea. Maybe a family that died. Because if he actually has a family, then why the hell would we stay?
He could have had a daughter that died, and why the daughter
Yeah.
sounds so
That would work.
like a daughter that died, and like the 15-year-old reminds him of his daughter. Maybe
Yeah.
physically, both
Got
girls
bitten by
had
a
brown
zombie
hair or
and
something.
died.
Everyone
Sorry.
has brown hair.
What?
Both girls have brown hair, is what she said. Both girls have
What?
brown hair. Good to know.
What? Like, yeah. Maybe
That-
both girls are blonde then, or ginger if you want them to be rare.
But it just kind of sounded weird to me. Both girls have brown hair. Good to know. You've
Okay,
lowered
like,
it down
maybe
to
both ghosts could be ginger, and that would explain why she's the murderer, because she's soulless.
yeah. She's trying to get a soul for herself. She's trying to steal a soul.
Killing
Oh wow,
ghosts.
that's 300 and something years ahead in the future, and we still can't transplant souls.
Toby Fox from the corner looking at you like,
Oh, that reminds me of the story that some of us came up with on the campfire server at one point, or the world, where they actually use pieces of their soul transactionally. As in, instead of
That's
money,
horrifying.
they transfer pieces of their soul.
I would argue that we're already doing this just by proxy through money.
I mean, technically I'm Joyce, so my money is my soul.
It's like hippity hoppity, your soul is now my property. Nice.
Anyway, let's not talk about that.
Let's go on another massive tangent.
Yeah,
Always go on massive tangents. That's the idea of a podcast.
that is
Oh yeah.
entirely the idea of a podcast.
I'm thinking
Like,
about changing my name to an Amish vampire now.
You have an idea for the
Tangents are
20-minute episode, and then it goes for 2 hours with a bunch of tangents. That's a podcast.
Yeah, having a topic is just to know what you're not wanting to talk about.
And then you edit out about half an hour of people talking about